Officer Donnelly, Liebert, Shiverton. Do you want to travel and don't have private transportation? Here are some travel safety tips to keep yourself and the persons around you safe from the coronavirus. When venturing out in public, it is recommended that you wear a mask at all times. Sanitize your hands before and after entering public transportation. The bus operators are also encouraged to sanitize their buses after each trip. Remember, always practice good respiratory hygiene. That means refraining from touching your face with unwashed hands. Always practice physical distancing. To maintain physical distance, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis stipulates that only 2 passengers are allowed per row. That is, 1 passenger on each end of the bus row, while 1 passenger is allowed to sit up front with the driver. This means that only 9 passengers are allowed in a passenger bus. Remember, stay safe, travel wisely as we work together to flatten the curve.
We're doing our part to help making sure that the coronavirus doesn't spread anymore in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Our role here is just to ensure that the public being safe, and at the same time we're keeping ourselves safe. We're ensuring that each other keep at least 6 feet distance apart.
I like the fact that they put this into place, because most of the time the people are not honest. They tend to come and cheat, and many people who are here from since 6, 7 o'clock in the morning standing up waiting long, other people come in and excusing themselves within the line.
Some of them are 6 feet apart and the others are jumbled up too much on one another. Each supermarket where I attend and even in the pharmacy, they're cooperating very well, and it's a good thing that they're doing. Very good.
I am very passionate about being here, performing my duties on the front line of COVID-19. Our job is not so easy, but we all know that someone has to do it.
It's not an easy job, it's not easy, very difficult, but however, country above self, and we managed to take on the task.
Prime Minister, you shall top up the police them money, because they out here in the hot sun to keeping the people them from fighting and shoving in the line. And what they do is a very, very good job.
We're just trying to do our part to make sure that St. Kitts can actually recover from this.
Yeah, people of St. Kitts and Nevis need to take this COVID-19 thing serious. The more cases we get, the more the place got locked down. Y'all making noise, but y'all still ain't doing what y'all supposed to do. Stop all your yard and use all your masks. That's the only thing gonna help right now.
Is on.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the National Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 Daily Briefing for the 22nd of April, 2020. I am Lesroy Williams. Thank you very much for joining us for today's briefing. Wherever you are, whether you are in the British Virgin Islands, you're in Jamaica, you're in Taiwan, you're in Canada, you're in New York, wherever you are in the world, you are very, very much welcome to be with us today as we continue to update you on the most current information with respect to the management of the COVID-19 pandemic here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Today is Administrative Professionals Day, and the government would like to salute all administrative professionals today, April 22nd. Administrative Professionals Week is celebrated this year from April 19th to the 25th under the theme Soaring to New Heights 2020 and beyond, reflecting on how today's career-minded administrative professionals consider their roles as gatekeepers and remain dynamic and relevant with changes in the business and global technological environment. Today we also celebrate Earth Day 2020 under the theme Climate Action. So happy Earth Day to all. I would now invite to the podium Mr. Melvin James, Director in the Department of Agriculture in St. Kitts, to give us a presentation. Mr. James.
Thank you, sir, and greetings all. Today I wish to share some ideas with us as it relates to Earth Day. Scientist Rachel Carson published a book in 1962 called Silent Spring. That book proved to be a major eye-opener about chemicals that polluted the environment and how they impacted our human life, wildlife, and society in general. Over the years, interest about the state of the environment was looked at in a disaggregated way by a number of individuals and societies, even universities and interest groups. But by 1970, it all came together, and the movement for the preservation of the environment was formed, and Earth Day came into being on the 22nd. So today itself is Earth Day. Today, April 22nd, 2020, 50 years after the concerns about the state of the environment, and by extension, the planet, they were as very pertinent, and they're even more so today. This year's theme, as you have heard, is called Climate Action. Climate change represents the biggest challenge to the future of humanity and life-supporting systems that makes the world habitable. Some predictions put us at the brink of disaster, so much so that the call for change is not just for the big industrialized countries, but for every country to do what little part they can as it relates to putting more emphasis on reducing greenhouse gases and pollutants and waste and heavy metals that affect our society. Over the years, much has improved, like we have cleaner air, less lead in our fuels, in our pipes, and in the environment. Yet there are many new challenges, like, for example, plastics, which are non-biodegradable, and other impacts that negatively affect the environment. One of the entities that significantly affect the environment is agriculture. The United Nations Summit on Sustainable Development, the countries attending adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals to jointly embark on a resilient and sustainable path and leave no one behind as it relates to resilient agriculture. Agriculture has a critical important role in dealing with the large climate changes currently faced, the severity of which is likely to increase in the future. Furthermore, both the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals stresses the importance of safeguarding food security and ending hunger in the face of climate change. The role of agriculture is not only crucial in mitigating, but also in adapting to climate change. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, approximately a quarter of human activities account for the greenhouse gas emissions, particularly through agriculture, forestry, and land use. At the same time, by causing extreme weather, drought, and flooding, and other disasters, climate change is depriving people, millions of people, of their livelihood. Despite major improvements, we still have a long way to go in zero hunger. So what is recommended is what you call climate smart agriculture. Let me close by saying St. Kitts agriculture is truly in its infantile stage. Hopefully, we understand that we are ripe for agricultural development. And when we do so, let us think about the concept that is called climate smart agriculture. It involves things like mixed farming, protected agriculture, to name a few. If we do not do our part to help to protect our environment, then life will not be as we know it today, and there's no guarantee that the human species will be able to survive in it. Let us be minded of Earth Day, its meaning, and its relevance to our own survival. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. I now invite the Commander of the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Comrie, to address us.
Good afternoon all, and thanks for the opportunity afforded me to update the nation on the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force role in the fight against this dreaded virus, COVID-19. Before I go into my presentation, let me take this opportunity to say a heartfelt thanks to the hard-working men and women of the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force, which I have the privilege to lead during this trial time. The St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force consists of the regular corps, which include the infantry and the Coast Guard, the maritime wing, the reserve, which are activated at this time, and the youth branch, the cadet corps. The main duties of the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force are the protection of the Federation from external aggression and to assist the civil power to maintain law and order in our Federation. In an effort to help reduce the spread of COVID-19, the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force is taking precaution internally to protect and preserve the health and wellness of its sailors and soldiers. The St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force has been involved against the fight COVID-19 from the inception as a member of the COVID-19 task force, and continue on all other teams that have been built out as we engage this pandemic, such as the quarantine monitoring team and the compliance team. We also provide security for COVID-19 patients. The infantry stand alongside our sister agency, the police, on the front line in creating VCPs, patrolling day and night in our communities, as well as providing security and social distancing measures at the supermarket and other places of business on partial lockdown days. The Coast Guard has also been engaged in the fight by assisting all other government agencies and essential workers, which include transportation of officials to and from Nevis, as well as transportation of COVID-19 samples to meet the RSS aircraft. The unit has also been activated at sea to increase maritime patrols to protect against the illegal entrance of vessels and contraband in our territorial waters. We have also been intercepting vessels requesting to enter the Federation via our territorial seas and legal port. This, I must admit, has kept us busy since the closure of our borders. The Coast Guard had developed a close bond with the port health team and customs. The CMO can testify for the number of calls she would have received from the Coast Guard. Special mention must be made to a number of individuals. Mr. Mark Williams of the Maritime Resource Department for making available his department vessel to assist in the fight against this dreaded virus. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health and Nevis for her cooperation, and Captain Napier and crew of the Free Winds for their generous donation of a quantity of masks and gloves to the Coast Guard. To you, Captain, I wish you and your crew fair winds and following seas. Let me conclude by making a special appeal to the nation. Please adhere to the advice of our health professionals and security forces. The St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force have well-trained soldiers, but we have no advantage in this fight because the enemy is invisible. I have been advised that there is no medical vaccine for this pandemic, COVID-19, but I would like to depart with these few words. Our behavior is the only vaccine at this time for COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Comrie. I would now invite Superintendent Cromwell Henry, Divisional Commander for District A, to address us. Superintendent Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. A pleasant good afternoon to all listening to this broadcast. I would start with the law enforcement activity over the past 24 hours in terms of arrests. Over the last 24 hours, we've made 2 arrests of persons breaching the curfew, 1 on St. Kitts, 1 on Nevis. This brings the total to date to 79 persons arrested, 10 on Nevis and 69 on St. Kitts. Some businesses are expressing concern about the intimidating manner some persons are wearing their masks, fearing that some may have ill intent. I wish to add that the Small Charges Act, under normal times, prohibits the wearing of masks. However, the present emergency regulations relaxed those provisions temporarily and makes it mandatory for persons to wear masks in public as a means to combat this present pandemic. We appeal to everyone to be responsible in the wearing of your mask and use them for personal health purposes only. We ask that persons avoid wearing additional pieces such as caps and sunshades that may further disguise you and make others around you uncomfortable. I wish to add, though, just to bring some comfort to businesses and residents, that our statistics shows that there has been no increase in criminal activity. In fact, we've seen a 78% decrease in major crimes in the past, in week 16, that was up to last weekend in 2020, compared to week 16 in 2019. Let me repeat this. There's been a 78% decrease in major crimes reported in week 16 in 2020 compared to week 16 in 2019. Week 16 was up to Saturday last week. And we've seen a 41% decrease in crime from week 1 to 16 in 2020 compared to the same period in 2019. And this is federation-wide. The security forces continue to be vigilant, and we also ask businesses to do likewise and increase your security posture in and around your premises. Speaking of statistics, the Inland Revenue has shared some statistics with us, which I would like to share now with you. For the period January to March 2020, 18 vehicles and 7 driver's licenses were renewed using the online portal at the Inland Revenue. For the month of April so far, 91 vehicles and 51 driver's licenses were renewed using this option. So 18 vehicles and 7 driver's licenses from January to March compared to 91 vehicles and 51 driver's licenses for April only, April this year. So we've seen a significant increase in the use of the online portal. We continue to urge owners and drivers to use this particular option to avoid long lines at the office and to really ensure that you are physically distancing yourself. The staff at Inland Revenue is available to assist persons who may need assistance. If you call 662-8607 or 662-8675. In closing, as we go into this period, as we go into the nighttime period of this 24-hour curfew, we urge residents to shelter in place and respect the curfew. Tomorrow is another limited operation day from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. We expect the fullest cooperation of all by observing the social and distancing protocols, as well as the hygiene protocols and the wearing of masks. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. I now invite Dr. Marissa Carty to give the COVID-19 situation report from the Ministry of Health. Dr. Carty.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and a pleasant good evening to all. As of Wednesday, 22nd April at 3 p.m., the World Health Organization reports 2,475,723 confirmed cases of COVID-19, with 169,151 deaths. In the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, 257 persons have been sampled and tested, with 15 confirmed positive, 230 confirmed negative, and 12 results pending. 1 confirmed case has recovered, with 0 deaths to date. There is currently 1 person quarantined in a government facility, while 105 persons are quarantined at home. 14 persons remain in isolation, while 633 persons have been released from quarantine. As we continue to battle against this disease, social stigmatization will become more of a concern. Social stigma is the negative association between a person or group of people who share certain characteristics and a specific disease. In this COVID-19 outbreak, stereotypes quickly arise about people who have or may have the disease. Such groups are persons of Asian descent, persons returning from travel, healthcare workers and emergency responders, persons with the disease and their family and friends, and persons released from quarantine. These groups may experience situations where they are excluded or shunned in social situations, denied job or educational opportunities, denied access to adequate housing and health care, or they may be targets of verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. Stigma can make people feel isolated and even abandoned. They may feel depressed, hurt, and angry when friends and others in their community avoid them for fear of getting COVID-19. Research from past epidemics show that stigma undermines efforts to test for and treat the disease. People who are worried about being shunned or worse may be less likely to get tested or seek medical care, which increases infection risks for themselves and for others. So how can we reduce COVID-19 stigma in the Federation? This is done through education. Getting the facts about COVID-19 from reputable sources, such as the NEOC COVID-19 daily briefings, the official COVID-19 website, the NEMA website, the St. Kitts Health Promotion Unit Facebook page, and the World Health Organization. And of course, share this information with your family and friends. Speaking up if you hear or see inaccurate statements about COVID-19 and certain people or groups. Reaching out to people who may feel stigmatized. Ask how you can help. Listen to them and show that you understand and support them. Show support for healthcare workers and others who are caring for persons with COVID-19. Thank them for their work and share positive messages on social media. Show support for and thank all who continue their essential jobs to help our community, such as police officers, bus drivers, grocery store clerks, and delivery persons. Stigma divides and turns us against each other. But in pandemics, they remind us how to be connected to each other. Our shared vulnerability to this virus is a source of solidarity. We must remember that the virus is the enemy, not the persons with or affected by COVID-19. Remember, stay safe and stay connected. Our national statistics and other COVID-19 related information can be found on the official website www.covid19.gov.kn, the St. Kitts Health Promotion Unit Facebook page, and the St. Kitts Health Promotion Unit YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carty, for that presentation. I now invite Ms. Vesta Southwell, who will recite for us a poem by Emelita Elliott. The poem is dedicated to the NEOC. Ms. Southwell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Greetings, everyone. As Mr. Williams has rightly said, this poem was shared with us with gratitude from Mrs. Emelita Elliott of Nevis and is entitled Dedicated to the National Emergency Operations Center, NEOC. The NEOC's service is truly appreciated. To the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis, it is dedicated. We say it with much gratitude. You have educated many to have a new attitude. COVID-19 is on a global swing. Yes, the Caribbean is certainly caught up in everything. St. Kitts Nevis started preparing early, thanks to our stakeholders who took on this task bravely. COVID-19 is militating against our movement. We must understand it is a global event. NEOC officers have pleaded to the public day and night. As for our federation, we need to win the fight. Yes, there is inconvenience, we sure understand, but safety is being encouraged to save every life in this land. Wear your masks, stay at home, and wash your hands. And from your face, please keep away your hands. Agricultural products are most important to us. Boosting our immune system is a must. If we evaluate the global situation, we can certainly salute our HEOC in our federation. The daily briefings help to increase our knowledge of this pandemic, which has no status from any college. NEOC has been put to an unprecedented test. A great deal of gratitude for doing your best. Sometimes the questions are repetitious. I'm sorry. Sometimes the questions are repetitious. Some even say a little suspicious and audacious. Patience is needed from day to day. Officers, never from your integrity stray. We want to again thank you, Mrs. Emelita Elliott of Nevis, and permission is being sought to share this wonderful poem through our various social media sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Southwell. I now invite Mr. Abdia Samuel, Chair of the COVID-19 National Task Force, to address us. But before I do that, I recognize Minister of State with responsibility for health, the Honorable Wendy Phipps, who is here with us. Mr. Samuel.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to you, Mr. Williams, and thank you again for the wonderful job that you keep doing day in and day out. And to our listening audience who are logged on via internet, watching on television, and listening via radio, thank you for tuning in once more. Our NEOC Daily Situation Report for Wednesday, 22nd of April, 2020. 311 hotline would have processed for the past 24 hours a total of 34 calls, 28 on St. Kitts, 6 on Nevis. 911, 59 calls. The NEOC on St. Kitts would have processed 7 calls, 2 were requests for permission, 4 were health related, and 1 seeking general assistance. The EOC on Nevis would have processed a total of 16 telephone calls. Today, the CMO, Dr. Hazel, Laws, and myself would have met with the community policing team, as mentioned yesterday by the Permanent Secretary of National Security, Mr. Osman Petty, and I can report to you that the meeting was very fruitful, as there was a number of engagement and ideas shared with us. And we also were able to share some general ideas in terms of how that community policing team can actually be an asset in the community for our messaging and also our national response efforts. Some of the areas that we discussed was public education with children, education with parents, and also with the elderly in our communities. And what we want them to do is to encourage the social and physical distancing protocols and practices, and also ensuring that there's an understanding of the good hygiene practices. Everybody concur that they will do their best to ensure that they carry this message to the communities effectively, and in particular, those communities that are densely that are densely populated with non-nationals, and that is critical. They have a good understanding and idea of how these communities move, how they function. So we are going to use this particular asset within the police force as well to reach out to the community. I don't know if some of you would have heard sometimes police vehicles passing around with loud hailers. And they shared a wonderful story with Dr. Laws and myself, whereby when they give their messaging in the community, asking persons to stay at home, this is a curfew, and they end their messaging with saying, you know, the police love you. They have received a lot of responses where persons will come to their landing, as we say colloquially, and they will shout back to the police, we love you too. This is what we want in the community. This is where we know that the community is on board and understanding with what we are trying to do for you in protecting you, because you are very important to us. So I want you to continue to supporting the community policing efforts. It's important. Sometimes we only look at the police as enforcers, but police are actually educators, facilitators, and they are human beings just like you and I. The compliance team would have had a rest day today. As businesses are closed, we are in a full lockdown there, but tomorrow they again will be deployed in their numbers to go out there and inspect these businesses, educating them for this week. Again, I wish to remind you, by next week, the teams are going to do more of enforcement, evaluating and enforcement. So again, I want to ask the business community to cooperate and support the activities and actions of the task force. I want to take this opportunity to express my gratitude and the gratitude of the NEOC to the Zion Moravian Church, Reverend Hilton and his team, for continuously providing hot lunches for the NEOC. These are the little things that continue to motivate us. And everybody every other person that continues to support the NEOC during this pandemic and the national effort by extension, we say thank you. Again, we are having a bit of a challenge where everyone is using 311 for everything. We understand, but however, we want to bring this to your attention that the 311 hotline is for health-related matters. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see that there are numbers scrolling for the NEOC. And I just wish to remind you that the NEOC numbers are 465-7453, 466-9626, and 466-3874, and you still have 911. Let us use 311 for all health-related matters only. In conclusion, I want to thank everyone for the work that they have been doing in supporting our national efforts, and I want to also acknowledge all the healthcare workers, from cleaners, emergency medical technicians, to nurses, doctors, and to even the packers and the shelves packers in the supermarkets, security forces, and everyone who functions at the NEOC, HEOC, and EOC and NEVIS, as NEVIS is also mirroring everything that we do, and we consult with NEVIS on a daily basis to ensure that no one is left behind in this national effort. So again, thanks to everyone, and I want to thank again the executive level, our Mitigation Council Minister, the Honorable Attorney General, for his dedication, and by extension, the Minister with responsibility for health, Junior Minister, that is the Honorable Wendy Phipps, and Mr. Leslie Williams. And before I leave, it is critically important that we also acknowledge the technicians at ZIZ who on a daily basis come here and they put up the equipment and they make sure that we start on time. That's John James and his team. So we have to acknowledge them. And Ms. Jacob, when I saw her coming in the yard this afternoon, I was amazed that day in, day out, consistently, we have citizens like Ms. Jacob who come and provide their services to ensure that you, the general public, are informed of this information. So thank you very much, and Mr. Williams, we look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Samuel. Of course, one of the most important parts of these daily briefings is the question segment. That segment that is interactive. Of course, it is important, whatever questions that you have, whatever concerns you have, the government and officials, other officials are here to address those concerns and those questions. Our first two questions go to Dr. Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson, you and the CMO continually tell us that you all have done a good job in the war against COVID-19. You said we have flattened the curve here. Why are you still then insisting that we remain under this curfew? I need to get back to church to speak to my God, to get the children back to school, and to get back to work. When can we get back to normal? And the second question, we have heard some say that we need to test, and this is the only way to gain control. When are we going to start widespread testing of the population? Dr. Wilkinson.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the questions. Last night, I was listening to the Prime Minister address the nation. And one of the things he said that in getting through this COVID-19 pandemic that's affecting the island, that the pill might be bitter, but in the end, the recovery will be sweet. And he had a lot of reassuring words for the nation. This morning, however, while I was browsing the internet, I came across the message that the Ugandan President gave to his nation. And I actually made some notes because I thought it would be instructive. And so I would just give you some excerpts on what he said, and then I will answer the question that you asked. And he said to his people that God has a lot of work. He has the whole world to look after, not just you. He said, this is a war that we are fighting, and in a war situation, nobody asks to stay indoors. You stay indoors out of choice. He said, in fact, if you have a basement, you would hide there in the basement as long as you can until the hostilities are over. He said that during a war, you don't insist on your freedom. You willingly give it up in exchange for survival. He said that during a war, you don't complain of hunger. You bear hunger and pray that you live to eat again. He said during a war, you don't argue about opening your business. You close your shop if you have time, and you run for shelter. He said that you pray that you outlive the war so that you can return to your business if it is still there, if it hadn't been looted or destroyed. He said during a war, you are thankful to God for seeing another day on the land of the living. He said during a war, you don't worry about your teenagers not going to school. You pray that the government does not draft them forcefully to fight on the battlefield. He said that the war that we are fighting has no borders. It has no ceasefire. And he said that this virus that we are fighting has no mercy or shows no mercy. It is indiscriminate. It has no respect for children, women, or places of worship. There are no sacred zones. And the point I want to make here, we are in a war, and sometimes we have to make sacrifices. But I would say to you, though, that the only how we're going to defeat this is if we don't show any complacency and we continue to do what we are doing. So I said before, we haven't said mission accomplished. We have been fighting this war, and we are making great strides, and we need you to understand and just bear the inconveniences, and very soon we'll get back to near normal. Now, you said the second question was as it relates to testing. Test. Yes, well, there have been some who've been saying that we need to test. And I said, in the ideal situation, I addressed this before, one can say, yes, test the entire population, but that is not practical. And what we do, we follow the World Health Organization and other reputable institutions. And I just want to remind you what the World Health Organization says. The World Health Organization advises that we find every case, we isolate every case, we test every case, we care for every case, and we trace and quarantine every contact, and we educate, engage, and empower our people. But to be clear, the World Health Organization advice is to find and test every suspected case, but not to test every single person in the population. And so we are following the World Health Organization and making sure that we test every suspected case and also the contacts.
Thank you, Dr. Wilkinson. This question: there are certain loan security documents which are time sensitive and which must be processed by the Inland Revenue Department before being filed at the High Court Registry. But the Inland Revenue Department says that they are not open for processing such documents. While the High Court Registry remains closed, it will be good if the documents can be processed by the Inland Revenue Department so that whenever the court registry reopens, the security documents may then be filed without further delay. Can something be put in place by the Inland Revenue Department to process these kinds of documents, even if online? Mr. Gift, the Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Department, sent this response. On the first 2 days, as we were focusing on phasing in our operations, we did not bring in any of the team from the stamps duty unit, as we wanted to ensure that we got all the social distancing protocols in place. We had actually in our plans for this coming Thursday and Friday to bring in some staff from the stamps duty unit to deal with those sensitive documents on Thursday and Friday. We are also evaluating the online options of processing of these documents while trying to ensure they have the appropriate legal trademarks and protocols required by the Inland Revenue Department as per the requirements of the Stamps Duty Act. That is for Mr. Edward Gift, who is the Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Department. This question is for Dr. Wilkinson. What is the reason why the national lab at the Joseph N. France General Hospital is not used instead of NextGen?
Thank you for the question. I believe most of us are aware that this virus started in Wuhan, China, in late December, and it didn't get to our shores until March this year. And so prior to December, there would have been no reason for us to be testing for COVID-19 at our lab. NextGen Laboratory is a new lab that was set up with our new equipment, etc. I can tell you, however, though, that the government is in the process of building out the capacity of our national lab so that very soon we'll be able to do the molecular test for COVID-19. We could not have done this before, since this is something that just came onto the scene within the last 3 months.
This one is for the Director of Agriculture, Mr. James. I am a butcher in the public market, and I would just like to know when the abattoir would be open, seeing that is mostly Sundays. They allow us to bring in the animals for butchery.
Thank you, sir, and also our inquirer, the butcher. Just to repeat what we had said in the update yesterday, that in the coming week, the abattoir is going to be available, open to the public, Monday from 8 to midday. It's going to be open for the traders. So if you're a butcher and trader, then you'll be allowed. It's only the traders that we're taking in. Remember, we're just opening up. So right now we're working with the traders. If you're not one, then you may wish to contact one, or you may already be in contact with one. But the abattoir is going to be open Monday morning, 8 to 12, for traders, and they will bring all species, all animals. In the past, we have days for particular animals. But because of this present situation, all animals will come in and choose, be it sheep, goat, pigs, cattle, all on Monday for traders only. I do hope that you're well informed. Thank you.
This question is for Superintendent Henry. Can the authorities revisit the sale of alcohol by the small shops, providing that persons buying take them home? I am speaking about beer and Guinness, not retail liquor. It's unfair that the large businesses can sell and not the small shops. Superintendent Henry.
Yes, I'm sure all the measures taken are reviewed from time to time, and they will be adjusted accordingly as the need arise. But in terms of the shops being allowed to sell liquor, I must say we are not very happy with persons' compliance. We allow those premises that sells other items, other food items, we allow them to sell their food items and restrict the sale of the beers and the other alcohol. But what we are seeing, people are still taking the chance and cheating and selling beers and other alcoholic drinks, and persons are consuming them on the premises. You have no control. Once you would have sold a beer to a customer, you have no control what he does with it. So if you sell him the beer and he opens it and sits by the shop and drinks it, you have no control over that. So for now, the sale of these retail alcohol is prohibited. And once we are getting good compliance and there is a need for review and change in this particular provision, then that will happen. But for now, it is restricted, and we ask persons to comply with the restriction.
I have a number of questions here for Dr. Wilkinson. I will ask some first and ask the others later. It has been reported that CARFA will no longer be testing samples from persons who show no symptoms of COVID-19. It has also been stated that NextGen Laboratory has produced nearly 100% accuracy with testing in relation to CARFA. What is the position going forward? Will NextGen Laboratory be the only lab offering testing in our federation for persons without symptoms? 2, if NextGen Lab is producing nearly 100% accuracy, who is now going to validate NextGen's testing? Are we to accept nearly 100% accuracy as good enough? The government needs to ensure validation to further ensure citizens are getting the best possible testing available. 3. What if something goes wrong with NextGen? God forbid. Does this mean that we will have no other means of offering testing for our people locally? We'll have those first.
Thank you very much. First of all, as I said before, we are very fortunate here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis compared to other islands who solely depend on CAFR for their testing, in that we have a lab locally that does the testing. And since CAFR made the decision to only test symptomatic patients, we were still able to get our asymptomatic patients tested here, which is a plus for us. I also just a while ago indicated that the hospital lab is building out its capacity, and I'm pretty certain very soon we will be offering the molecular testing. There are 2 other labs on the island. I cannot speak for them, but I know that these labs are always trying to stay on the cutting edge of technology, and I'm pretty certain that they are probably looking at their capacity to see whether or not they can start offering this testing also. But we are only 3 months into this. Now, I want to correct something that was just said, in that we said initially we were taking 2 samples and we were looking for the correlation, and we said that we had a near 100% correlation between the results from NextGen and the results from CAFR. I spoke nothing about accuracy because the accuracy is fine. We spoke about the correlation. Now, sometimes one can have a difference in the testing depending on the sampling. And so there was one test that the sampling was insufficient, and we had to repeat that test. And so instead of coming to you earlier and saying that we had 100% correlation, we said we had a near 100% correlation, taking into consideration that test that had to be repeated because of sampling. And the CMO spoke before about the fact that sometimes we have to retest. Now, as it relates to NextGen itself, I can tell you that I had spoken to one of the directors before when I went to the opening, and they said that NextGen was actually set up by Caribbean Diagnostics out of the Cayman Islands, and this is one of the largest distributors of laboratory equipment, and they have the state-of-the-art equipment. The equipment, everything is validated and calibrated on a regular basis. They had 3 international consultants who came in to set the lab up, and so I am pretty certain that the results coming out of NextGen, they are accurate and they are dependable.
Someone sent a question yesterday with respect to National Bank and moratoriums. And the management of the National Bank sent a response which I would read. The St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank Limited wants to reassure all of our customers that we are here for you during this time of uncertainty caused by the coronavirus, the COVID-19. The current situation is unprecedented, and we recognize the magnitude of the likely impact on our daily lives. We realize that some of our customers may experience tremendous anxiety due to the loss of employment or reduced work hours. National has decided to provide the following relief measures to both our personal and business customers. 1. Moratorium on payment of principal and interest and all credit facilities, loans and credit cards, up to 3 months in the first instance. 2. Emergency short-term loans for qualified customers for 6 months to 1 year. 3. Waiver of late fees and charges during this period. 4. Waiver of penalties for early withdrawals from CDs and target savings accounts. 5. Waiver of ATM withdrawal fees. 6. Waiver of setup fees for new point of sale terminals. 7. Waiver of 50% of monthly rental fees for POS terminals. If you have been impacted by COVID-19 and you are experiencing financial hardship, kindly contact us by telephone or email to discuss how we can assist you. Our telephone contact is 1-869-465-2204, extension 1207 or extension 1208. Alternatively, you may reach us by writing to COVID assistance at sknanb.com. That's COVID assistance at sknanb.com. We stand ready to assist you in these difficult and unprecedented times. Together we shall overcome. That is from the St. Kitts and Nevis Anguilla National Bank. I now return to Dr. Wilkinson. These last two questions. What of other labs? Are no other local labs willing or able to offer testing? Is the government prepared to offer assistance to NextGen and other labs to bring them up to international and acceptable standards? 5. What about our government facilities at the hospitals? Are there any plans in place to upgrade our government labs at this critical time to assist our citizens and residents?
Before I answer the question, I just want to share something with you. After the last briefing, Father Smitten, the retired priest from the Anglican Church, he actually called me and offered a prayer with me to give me strength. And Father Smitten, if you're listening, give me another call this evening. Now, as it relates to the lab, the hospital lab, as I said, the government is in the process of building out the capacity for the lab. We've already ordered equipment and supplies and are pretty certain we should be coming on stream to do the molecular testing. I can't speak specifically for the other 2 private labs, but I'm pretty certain that they are listening. I'm pretty certain that they want to stay on the cutting edge, and I'm sure that in time they might be offering this service also. I don't think that the government has any reason to offer assistance to NextGen. They're a new lab and they're fairly competent, and they've been punching way above their weight, and we have full confidence in what they're doing. I thank you.
Okay, there seems to be a question that keeps revolving around Western Union. There's one person who said, I was at Western Union, and though I was at it in the line for 3 hours, I think that the manager was very helpful. Western Union does not hold money in the office. Western Union is not a bank. Western Union in Jamaica controls the offices in the Leeward Islands. And if the system in Jamaica is down, it will affect St. Kitts, and Jamaica is 1 hour behind St. Kitts. So when the office in St. Kitts was opened at 7:30 a.m., it was 6:30 a.m. in Jamaica. St. Kitts' office has to wait on Jamaica. That is what that person's response was in relation to what is happening with Western Union. There's also a press statement from Sol and Island Auto Supplies, or Sol Island Auto Connery Football Club, which I would like to read. Sol Island Auto Connery Football Club provides assistance again. The Sol Island Auto Supply Connery Football Club is cognizant of the ongoing negative impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, what it is having on our community. Consequently, we were determined to play our part in our community from the onset and delivered 17 care packages to the elderly and shut-ins within the Connery community on the 28th of March, 2020. These packages consisted of toiletries and also food items that would boost the immune system of the recipients. As we have seen, the number of cases increase in conjunction with curfews and full lockdowns, so likewise the needs of many persons have increased. Therefore, our club once again found it imperative to provide assistance to those in our community. In this regard, we have committed to provide food vouchers to 22 families from within our community and our team. Each voucher will be valued at $150 for a total of $3,300. Our club continues to encourage our supporters and all persons in St. Kitts and Nevis to adhere to the national guidelines and protocols for preventing the spread of COVID-19. Please stay safe, stay home as much as possible, and let us all help to flatten the curve. And this is our last question for the day. Why is it that Fast Cash isn't doing anything about their constant interest rates, knowing we have a pandemic? Other businesses have taken off or stopped their interest rates. Can someone assist or deal with this matter? I suppose that the Attorney General, could you?
Good afternoon to everyone. We have to thank all of our business establishments for the way in which they continue to adapt to the ongoing new normal that we find ourselves in. They adapt in many ways, whether it is in having to adjust to social distancing protocols, ensuring that we sanitize when we enter them, that within the confines of their businesses, that we help to have our customers stay 6 feet apart, that we wear face masks, that we try our best to adhere to the new spirit of interacting. We have seen this afternoon, for instance, that National Bank has come to us and have been showing how a good corporate citizen our bank is, and making it very clear as to the ways in which they will assist us at this time, this very difficult time. We have had an explanation from another financial services institution, Western Union, as to why at times they may have difficulties when systems that are regional, based in Jamaica, may be down. And I am sure that other businesses, financial services and otherwise, will also adapt to the new normal, and we call on them to try and assist us, all of us, as we adjust to the new normal. It's a new time, and as we go forward, while we try to understand the need for us to exist with each other, live with each other, to protect ourselves, our families, we also want to be able to introduce a new sense of doing business, having corporate responsibility, to have our customers and our community be able to adjust to this new way that we have to live with each other. Each business will have to make its decision as to how it practices its corporate responsibility, its business. The market, and we live in a market economy, as we go forward, will determine those who will be successful. And if some businesses have difficulty in adapting, the nature of the market system, the market economy in which we live in, will determine those who will do well and those who may well not have the support from their regular customers and clients. If any business, financial services or otherwise, are not adhering to rules and regulations, the laws that govern them, those will be, if they're financial services, those will be monitored by the Financial Services Regulatory Commission, and they will respond if there will be any breach of the laws governing how financial services regulations companies operate. And more generally, we expected all our businesses to make the necessary adjustments, necessary adherence to protocol, social distancing and otherwise, and find ways to assist our community by being able to make sure that they are able to work for tomorrow, to be in business tomorrow. Because if they do not have good business practices, they will not be able to survive in our new economy. Thank you very much.
Moderator, Mr. Lesroy Williams, I would love me to share this note with our STEP workers. Some of you STEP workers are assigned to farms, and Mr. Emil Green from the STEP office has advised that once your farm manager, once the person in charge of the farm has required your services, then you must turn out to work. You are allowed to go to work. I mean, the farmers have certain conditions of time and of number of workers, no more than 2 workers. Once they call you up, please be informed that you are expected to go to work. This is the direction from Mr. Emil Green, so be so guided accordingly. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James, and thank you to the Attorney General for his explanation. That brings us to the end of our question segment and brings us to the end of the daily briefing for today. I would like to thank Mr. James, Director in the Department of Agriculture, the Commander of the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Comrie, Superintendent Cromwell Henry, Divisional Commander for District A, Dr. Marissa Carty, PRO, the Ministry of Health, Mr. Abdias Samuel, Chair of the COVID-19 National Task Force, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Medical Chief of Staff at JNF General Hospital, Attorney General and Chairman of the Disaster Mitigation Council, the Honorable Vincent Byron, and also among us, the Honorable Wendy Phipps, Minister of State with responsibility for health, and also Mrs. Christmas Jacob for her dedication, her daily dedication to providing us with sign language. Thank you very much for joining us for today. Thank you to the media as well. And tomorrow we'll be back at 5 o'clock for another daily briefing. Until then, take care, be safe.
Before touching the mask, clean hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Take the mask and inspect it for tears or holes. Orient which side is the top side where the metal strip is. Ensure the proper side of the mask faces outwards, the colored side. Place the mask to your face. Pinch the metal strip or stiff edge of the mask so it molds to the shape of your nose. Pull down the mask's bottom so it covers your mouth and your chin. After use, take off the mask. Remove the elastic loops from behind the ears while keeping the mask away from your face and clothes. To avoid touching potentially contaminated surfaces of the mask, discard the mask in a closed bin immediately after use.
We're doing our part to help making sure that the coronavirus doesn't spread anymore in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Our role here is just to ensure that the public being safe, and at the same time we're keeping ourselves safe. We're ensuring that each other keep at least 6 feet distance apart.
I like the fact that they put this into place because most of the time the people are not honest. They tend to come and cheat, and many people who are here from since 6, 7 o'clock in the morning standing up waiting long, and people come in and excusing themselves within the line.
Some of them are 6 feet apart and the others are jumbled up too much on one another. Each supermarket where I attend and even in the pharmacy, they're cooperating very well, and it's a good thing that they're doing. Very good.
I am very passionate about being here, performing my duties on the front line of COVID-19. Our job is not so easy, but we all know that someone has to do it.
It's not an easy job, it's not easy, very difficult, but however, conscious of ourselves and we managed to take on the task.
Prime Minister, you shall top up the police them money because they out here in the hot sun to keeping the people them from fighting and shoving in the line. And what they do is a very, very good job.
We're just trying to do our part to make sure that St. Kitts can actually recover from this.
Yeah, people of St. Kitts and Nevis need to take this COVID-19 thing serious. The more cases we get, the more the place got locked down. Y'all making noise, but y'all still ain't doing what y'all supposed to do. Stop all your yard and use all your masks. That's the only thing gonna help right now.
Is on.